there's two types of scarcity. There's real scarcity and artificial scarcity. Real scarcity is when there is simply not enough of something. There just aren't enough of something because that's the way nature happened, or we just haven't made enough of it yet, or something like that. Artificial scarcity, on the other hand, is when there are rules been put in place for the protection of some certain value set, or maybe, say, an industrial monopoly or something along those lines, which is intently put in place to prevent the elimination of scarcity. So an example of this is copyright. Copyright is in many ways intended to protect the income of artists, in theory. In practice, it doesn't. In practice, what it mostly does is just artificially scarcifies access to culture. And this is not really a bother for me or you, because we live in this nice world where we get enough paid to actually be able to access culture. But the creative industries claim something around $68 billion worth of lost sales a year. And I mean, that's of course a nonsense statement, but if we just break it down, almost $70 billion a year, if we divide that by everybody, then it comes out to about about $10 a person, right? There's 7 billion people, $70 billion, $10 a person. But most people in the world don't actually get more than $1 a day. So having them spend $10 on access to culture is a ludicrous statement. It just doesn't work. So we can just right there say, okay, the 2 billion poorest people in the world are economically incapable of accessing culture. And then we can start taking the next billion and the next billion. And actually it turns out there's only about maybe 1 billion people in the world who can actually access culture at that rate, because by then we're up to maybe $30, $40, $50 a person. And this just isn't sustainable. It doesn't work that way. So when we're saying artificial scarcity, what we're saying is there is a certain amount of scarcity in the world. We don't necessarily know where it is. For instance, there's lots of evidence that says that there's no scarcity of food in the world right now, but there's lots of evidence that says that there's a scarcity of oil. So at the same time, if you look at the market will tell you, oh, but there's scarcity of both. And we see that in the fact that there's famine in various countries, there's food shortages and agricultural problems. The statistics are pretty easy. 2011, there were 6.8 billion people in the world. The total vegetable production was about 6.5 billion tons. Right? So what does an average person eat? Well, an average American, who, they're a bit fatter than the average human, they eat about 883 kilos of food per year. Now, that means that if we just take the vegetables that are produced and divide them by the average American, and not focus too much on the actual nutritional value, because vegetables are quite good, then it turns out everybody on the planet can be vegetarian. And that's without even looking at the 2.4 billion tons of meat, or the 150 million tons of fish, or all of the dairy products and all that. So there is no scarcity of food, right? But our markets treat it like there is, and actually in many places like the United States, people are actually, farmers are incentivized to destroy parts of their crop to get a better price. This doesn't do good things for human food security. So to take another angle on the artificial scarcity question, if we manage to map out which scarcities in the world are real and which ones are artificial, and we eliminate all of the artificial scarcities, then we can focus on fixing the real scarcities where they exist, and humanity can prosper in a way that it cannot now, because there's so many invested interests in maintaining scarcity of certain things.